last topic, and then I'm going to bring folks in. Bridget, do you use TikTok a lot?
No, I'm not on it. I've never put it on my phone. I call it Chinese spyware. I'm not. No,
All right.
I'm
V,
one of
are
those.
you V? Arguably, TikTok has been your bridge to success. So
Oh yeah.
you're more enthusiastic. What if you could set U.S. government policy about TikTok? What would it be?
Sure. So I want to see like comprehensive data privacy protection across the board. I think that our data is getting collected and or stolen or sold over and over and over by social media companies, both American owned and foreign owned. So I think if there was going to be something that they were going to do with TikTok, they should have done it up front. Right now, you've got 7 million businesses, 150 million Americans on it. And I don't know that they're like I watched Bridget one of your videos recently where you were like, my data's already been stolen. Steal it again. I don't care. Like I want to be able to do what I want to be able to do. So I kind of feel that way about it. TikTok is not for sale, and I do expect that it will go dark again on April 1st or whenever its timeline runs out.
You mean you don't think the Chinese will sell it?
The Chinese don't own it. It's 60% owned by global investors, and the
Well,
number one shareholder is Jeffrey Yess, who's the richest man
yeah,
in Philadelphia. So I don't,
yeah.
I, as far as that goes, I
Well,
think it's
the
too
Chinese don't
complicated a
own
deal.
the Chinese don't own all of it, but a Chinese company with ties to the government does own a
No,
lot of it.
that's not true. That's just not true. There's a
Which part of it's
Chinese
not true?
that a Chinese company with ties to the CCP owns it. There's one person, the inventor, who was funded by American venture capital money to create ByteDance that lives in Singapore that owns 20% stock in ByteDance. 20% is owned
Correct.
by the employees and 60% is owned by global investors, not Chinese.
But you don't deny that he's got ties to the Chinese government.
He does not have ties to the Chinese government. He
He
lives in
does have.
Singapore.
Well, he can
I
live in
would love
Singapore and have time. He can live in
look,
Singapore and have ties to the Chinese
I would
government.
love for somebody to provide the proof of that because all the way up to John Kirby even was like, we cannot actually tie TikTok or ByteDance to the Chinese government. 4 of the 5 board seats are Americans. The entire thing was built on American
Now
venture
they are.
funding.
Now they
They
are.
have been since
No,
2017,
that
since
last
20.
I since you're calling me out for alleged factual inaccuracies, I don't believe what you just said is true about the original venture funding. I don't believe
Go
that's true.
back. It was Jeffrey S. and Sequoia Capital. You can go back and look it up. And I think we should maybe like we could do this again whenever you want to. But this has been my fight for the last 4 years
Yeah.
is getting people to write legislation that was based on fact about the platform. Because the biggest issues with the platform are its addictiveness, are the algorithm, are the what voices are being centered or not centered, but not this Chinese alleged Chinese interference.
So can I
All
ask
right.
why
Well,
they
yeah,
wouldn't
go ahead.
divest?
It's it's because no one has been able to name who the Chinese are that need to divest. When you look at who would have to divest, 60% global investors, 20% of the employees of TikTok, which includes 13,000 Americans, and 20% is the one guy, the inventor. So it's not like a single sale where they could just like
I'm
get somebody to
I'm
sell it.
I'm going to call Tom Cotton and get some more information. Then I'm going
Call
to have you
Tom
back.
Cotton. Oh my God, my favorite guy
Then I'm
from
going to have you.
Arkansas.
Then I'm going to have you back. Let me ask you this: if so many American jobs that are at stake and so much American income,
Mhm.
and the Chinese aren't really involved, why is the American government trying to kill it?
Well, how much time do you have for me to start you at the beginning with Mark Warner and the Restrict Act, which is actually, people will say that Donald Trump started trying to ban TikTok in 2019 based on Marco Rubio's issues with China from back then. But
Yeah.
it was actually Mark Warner, the Democrats' Restrict Act, which read like Patriot Act 2.0, that was exposed on TikTok, torn apart, and eventually no senator wanted to touch it. But he started, that was the first TikTok ban trying to get surveillance of all
But
communications.
politicians respond to incentives, and there are a
Uh-huh.
lot of incentives not to ban it,
Well, the
right? A lot of
incentive for
incentives.
the legislation to go through was
Yeah.
Gallagher, who now works for Planeteer, Peter Thiel.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, Peter Thiel doesn't
Well,
like TikTok, and a lot of his guys don't.
But Gallagher didn't write the thing by himself. There's bipartisan support for this.
There's
So
bipartisan not support for it too, though.
but why are they supporting? Why are they supporting going against young people who
Hmm.
love it? Why are they
Yeah,
supporting going against the American economy with all those
yeah.
jobs at stake? Why are they going against that for what you say is a myth about Chinese ownership?
I would love to know. They've never presented evidence
Well,
for any kind of
but
interference.
I've covered this stuff for a while. I've never seen a case where they would go against young people and jobs for a phantom. I've never seen that.
They also told me that they didn't think it would actually get to this part because the lie is based on the fact that all they need is some random Chinese, we've never known their name, they've never been named, to divest from the platform and everything would be okay. And in fact, the divestiture doesn't even can't even happen. And in the law, Protecting Americans Against Foreign Adversarial Acts, Apps
Yeah.
Act, it says that TikTok would need to delete the entire source code, which would break the whole app anyway.
Right. After the changes that were made in the last go round, does China have anyone in China, public or private, have any access to the data of TikTok users?
TikTok data for American users has been housed in Texas since 2019.
Right.
As
So
far as
there's
I
no-
know, and as far as
Yeah.
been reported, no, they
Yeah.
do not.
Yeah. All right.
So
Can
I
you
feel
come
like I've been so
Go ahead.
confused about TikTok because I was under the impression you couldn't be critical of China and that like are people talking about Tiananmen Square on there and stuff?
I mean, I don't know that people are talking about a protest from the 80s on TikTok all that much, but
Yeah.
they could if they wanted to. But that was the
Could
argument.
they?
They're like, well, could I
Brit-
talk about Tiananmen Square? And it's like, why would that be popular
Yeah.
with
Brit-
this
Bridget, I'll-
demographic now?
Bridget, I'll say I've been told that they basically said to some people, yeah, you could be critical, and they're letting some people be critical to create the impression that anyone can be critical.
So
But
it's
I
like
don't think
controlled opposition.
I think that's the case. All right, V, I'm going to do some research because I like to respect.
Sure.
And I know you're hugely self-interested, not in a bad way. Like this is important to you.
Well, it's
and so I'm
important
gonna
to me because I've been in it for 4 years. It's
Yeah.
not where I make the majority of my money or influence. So
Yeah.
at this point, if TikTok were to fail, I would be successful other
Yeah.
places. It's about the community that's been built there, and it's about the American government writing a bill that punishes a company before giving them a trial. They never got a trial for the bill of attainder. Congress wrote a bill that punishes a company differently than other social media companies and never gave them a trial on it.